Okay, so another kind of difficult section comes around line 12, page 24, where Socrates asks Euthyphro if he thinks that there's a relationship between justice and piety. At the end of that paragraph that starts in the E, he says, "See whether you think that all that is pious is of necessity just." Euthyphro says, "I think so." And then, is all that is just pious, or is all that is pious just? But not all that is just pious, but some of it is, and some of it is not. And he says, "I do not follow what you're saying, Socrates." Okay. Let's kind of get some meaning out of that. So, the question he's asking is all that is P for pious by necessity, or also J for just? So in other words, if you're going to say that all that is pious is also just, what you would say is, if this is my category of just, everything that is pious would fit within justice. So no part of the pious would be not just. Now, if we switch these around, and we had, instead of all that is pious just, we had all that is just is pious, you'd have the exact opposite. So your pious category would be larger than your justice. Now, to exemplify that, he talks about fear and shame. And there's a weird poem that he quotes about Zeus had said it, that where there is fear, there is also shame. And Socrates says he disagrees with that. So if we say that all fear is shame, right, then we would say, okay, so my largest concept is S for shame, and fear is within shame because all of fear is also shame. So shame is the bigger category. The problem is this, right? It doesn't make sense. Because if you talk about fear being shame, the relationship between fear and shame, you could fear tigers attacking you, but that's not shameful. And you could fear all kinds of things that are not shameful. Indeed, if you're being chased by a bear, you're going to be scared, but not embarrassed. So in other words, this doesn't make sense. What Socrates is saying is it's the other way around. All shame is fear, but as he says, fear covers a larger area. So there's many types of fear. One type of fear is shame. And shame is the fear of what other people think about you. So what he's asking Euthyphro is, what is the relationship between justice and piety? And at the end, this is what Socrates convinces him, that all that is pious is of necessity just. So in other words, you have justice, and within justice is piety. So justice is the larger concept, which then means if justice is the larger concept, you're going to have to figure out where piety fits into this scheme. So in other words, what part of justice is piety? Just like you could talk about cats. So let's say if we're going to talk about tigers and cats, right? We could say when it comes to tigers and cats, we could go, all tigers are cats, right? That makes sense. Because cat is the larger category. Oh, get it? Category, cat. And within that larger category, you have all kinds of things, right? Like tigers, lions, ocelots, jaguars, etc., etc. So then if you're defining a term, what you want to do, and he spelled this out at the beginning of the discussion, right? He said, first tell me the kind. There's your kind right there, right? So it fits in this kind, and then we have to find where this is situated within the kind. So we're going to have to do the same thing with justice. So we're going to have to say, well, it's a kind of justice, and what kind of justice is it? The kind of justice here. And then explain that it is a kind of justice that deals with what? That's where we're going to have to go next. But that's kind of what that means. What he wants euthyphro to do is to put in a logical order these concepts so that they make sense.